Hey guys, it's Lazy, and today I want to share my Molten Blast endgame setups on the Ritualist. Now I'll get to the Ascendancy change in a little bit, but I want to say that this has been one of the best builds I have played in PoE 2 so far, and it's definitely the most fun, even considering that I play Lightning Spear in 0.2. What we have here is a one-button mapping setups and a one-button bossing setups that can instantly take down any T15 bosses and even one-round pinnacle bosses, as you can see in the showcase, with or without a Headhunter. This is an endgame setups and it's by no means expensive. Even though I'm using a Headhunter, I'll provide a budget belt option later in the gearing sections. But first, let's dive into the build itself. Now, in this iterations, I designed it to farm endgame contents with over 100% rarities and very fast map clear with over 75% evasion. Now that's more than enough, especially with the defense from Headhunter, and I haven't really died in the last 20 map or so that I have run since hitting level 80. If you haven't seen my previous video, this build is all about accuracy stacking to get more attack speed from the Falcon Dive notable. With an insane amount of attack speed, we'll use Molten Blast as both our movement and attacking skills. With the changes in 0.3, Molten Blast with Nova projectiles has become one of the premium skills from map clear. This skill has fantastic coverage and can bounce off terrain, meaning you will never really need to aim during mapping again. In the previous setups, we lack single target damage because Molten Blast is not really a single target damage skills. I have tried many different setups and ultimately I landed on the Last Lament crossbow. This crossbow gained popularity this late due to the Lich crossbow build, but it hasn't seen much use outside of that and I want to change that. So what makes this crossbow special? First, you can kinda see here, it has great stats. A lot of unique items in PoE 2 comes with less than ideal stats, but not this one. The Last Lament has incredibly high physical damage base stats, and it comes with a skill called Compose Requiem, and this grants you a buff that lasts 12 seconds, during which you can unleash an attack called Requiem for free. And it accumulates over time during mapping. Now we only use this for boss, and this attack has an insane amount of scaling. The attack damage is 850%, and the attack speed scales of 400% of the base attack speed. We can scale this number even higher with accuracy stacking, leading to an even higher attack speed, and with that much attack damage and attack speed, we can easily kill any boss in the game. So yeah, this is an insane crossbow, and it essentially solves all of our single target damage. Alright, so let's talk about the Ascendancy change, and why did I choose Ritualist for this build for the endgame instead of the Titan. The TLDR is that on a mid-budget, and mid-budget here I'm talking about Headhunters and a bunch of gears. 100 div is still considered mid-budget, and a lot of endgame builds go for like a mirror tiers, right? So on a mid-budget, a Ritualist with 3 ring allows me to run the maximum amount of rarities on my gear, and we all know how crucial rarity is for farming. Another reason why I went with the Ritualist is because of the starting locations. It is much more ideal than the warriors to go for evasions, because I find evasions is still more effective than armors on the side, especially when combined with a Headhunter. Now, if you have the currency to buy good gears and cap your resistance while getting good amount of rarities, you can definitely just play the Titans, but just be aware that those ring is gonna cost you a lot of divine. But ultimately, I still think Titan is gonna be the better choice with higher budget. For this build, we picked the Ascendancies mainly to get Unfurled Fingers and Mystic Attunement. You get 1 extra ring slot. We don't have any downside by picking reduced maximum mana. We don't actually need mana in this build because Defy 2 allow us to just bypass all the mana costs and spam our skills. But I'll talk about that in a bit. So yeah, Unfurled Finger for +1 ring slot and Mystic Attunement for that extra stat. And this is pretty much how I am able to achieve high amount of rarities and also cap my resistance. Well, I'm not actually capped here because I'm on my weapon set 2, And I did have a rune in the shield setups in my weapon set 1, but yeah. Basically, let's just pretend that I am capped because I only use weapon set 2 for boss. And for the rest of the ascendancies, it doesn't really even matter because I'm just clicking these two because there's not really any choice. And to be honest, you can just unspec out these two and nothing will really change. I don't actually use the skills and we don't actually need the life regens. So we picked this ascendancy just for Unfurled Finger and Mystic Attunement. Now I did try the setups on the Amazon as well, leveling from 65 to 80 with the Amazon. But after some initial testing and playing around with the PoE, I found that the Amazon is just strictly inferior to the Ritualist. And, this is because of the critical strike nerf, coupled with a few changes to the evasion formula, meaning that, the crits that you get is just weaker. So you get less amount of crits and crit doesn't really matter. The physical damage gain from accuracy on weapon is also minimal. And, elemental infusions, which is now called elemental surge, is pretty much non-existent in this build because Molten Blast cannot consume charge, and GGG has removed all the support gems that used to consume those charges. Now, on the Amazon Ascendancies, we also get elemental leech, but I find that if you're not leeching ES, it's actually not that comfy, and because we use Hoa in our build, we can't really use the glove to leech ES. So yeah, that is pretty much the reason behind my ascendancy choice and why I'm sticking with the Ritualist for now. So in our build, we are using one skill for 90% of the time, and that is Molten Blast. This is a one button playstyle build, and pretty much we spam Molten Blast for the whole mapping, and we are only using Requiem for boss, and sometimes we use Bone Shatter to move around because you have more attack speed with the quality, so the skills goes a lot faster than the Molten Blast as the trouble skills. But yeah, 90% of the time you'll be holding down Molten Blast. And then we have other skill here as well. We have Wind Dancers, giving us more evasion rating because this is evasion characters. And then we have the companions with Haste aura. I turn it off because he is kind of noisy, but yeah, we turn it on. He is very fast, he has speed aura, and he can follow us very easy doing mapping because we are also fast. And that means we always will have Haste aura. Uptime is almost 100%. So I'm just gonna turn him off because he is noisy once again. I'll talk about how to capture him a little bit later. Now, for the rest of the skills, we have Orb of Storm, Elemental Weakness, Frost Wall. Now, the thing here is that it doesn't matter what spell you choose. Essentially, you just need to have a bunch of spell over here, supported the spell with blue support gems, all in order to activate crystallized immunities, which grant you immune to chill if a majority of your socketed support gems are blue. And we can very easily do that in our build because we don't use pretty much any skill at all. So yeah, all of our support gems need to be blue here to have a majority of blue for our skills and activate crystallized immunities. Besides that, pretty much support gems for Molten Blast, we're using no power projectiles, I explained before. This allows Molten Blast to shoot in a circle and it's very strong for coverage. Heightened accuracy is here to give us more attack speed per second. So we have about 6.6 right now. If I take this off, it goes down to 5.56. So that's almost a 1 attack per second that we lose. The Fire 2 is here for lucky damage, which is good because we have a lot of lightning damage. But also, insufficient mana doesn't prevent the use of the skills, which means that by combining that with Constricting Command, we are able to spam the skill even though we don't have enough mana, which allow us to have a very smooth playstyle. So yeah, the Fire 2 and Constricting Command is broken this league. And then we have Fork. Fork just split our projectiles whenever we hit the enemy into 2, and we combine that with a passive on the trees to fork for additional projectile as well. So we get even more projectiles and we get good coverage. And then finally we have Rig Wall, Ferocity. Make sure that we are using Molten Blast on our weapon set 1. When using it with Rig Wall Ferocity, you are getting 20% more attack speed, which is really good. More is a multiplier, and 15% less damage. Not really a problem in this build, really, because once we stack up a lot of flat damage with Oil of Asara, and yeah, we have a lot of flatlining from Hand of Wisdom Hoa. So not really a problem. I think the more attack speed, more quality of life you're gonna get in this build, because we are only using this skill to move. And then we have Requiem. So this is our single target damage skills. It comes with the crossbow right here. So this crossbow grants you Compose Requiem, and Requiem is the attack. So you support the attack with essentially attack link to give us more attack damage. You can see the DPS I have over here is 1,600,000 damage. You know, it goes a little bit higher with the Haste aura from the companion. It goes up to 1,700,000. So yeah, we do have a lot of damage from Composed Requiems and Last Lament, which is how we do single target damage. For the support link, we are using Elemental Armament, more elemental attack damage, more multiplier is good. We are using Concentrated Area, which is another 30% more area of damage in a different buckets. So they're multiplying together, which is really good. And then we have Rakiata Flow. So Requiem, you can see here we do a lot of coal and lightning damage mainly. By having Rakiata Flow, you don't need to spec into any penetration node on the tree. This is especially useful for Pinnacle bossings, because Pinnacle bossings usually they have 75 elemental resistance. So yeah, you just inverse that to negative 75% elemental resistance, which in turn is extremely strong for this build. For the last support gems, we are using Stoicisms. There are many gems that grant 20% more damage. I'm using this because we don't really use dodge roll or any trouble skills, so the 20 stacks will always be up. And for Blow Shatter, we are using Rage 3, Rapid Attack 3, Heightened Accuracies, and also Define. This is the main purpose is to just use that as a trouble skills, and there's not really any use for that. So yeah. Wind Dancer, I have Pin, Blind 2, Maim, and I have Precision 2 on here to give me even more accuracies while this buff is up. And then for the companions, we are using Brutus Brain. This means that the companion do no damage and it also cannot die. So it just follow us around and it's really nice. I have Minion Mastery to add levels and Frozen Nexus or Frost Nexus. Yeah, so just small blue support gems over here. But this companion is just going to follow you and give you Haste Aura, and it's really nice. And yeah, for the rest of these spells over here, you just use whatever spell you want and add a bunch of blue support gems. Once again, we don't use this skill, so it is whatever. And in here, I also have Ritual Sacrifice, which I don't really use. I find it very annoying to use that in maps, and we have Headhunter, so yeah, whatever gems I have in here doesn't really matter. So yeah, I just don't use the skill at all. And that is everything about our skills and support gems. I'm gonna quickly show you how to capture our companion. The first thing here is that you need to have access to the interlude area right here. I am currently in Ashen Forest, so it's one of the interlude act, and you can access them from the Glade Town. So go to the Glade Town and go into Ashen Forest. Now in here, make sure that you bring a skill gems of at least level 9, which you can craft the skill gems from level 31. Make sure you bring this so you can actually capture the beast. I'm just gonna quickly do this so you can kind of see how it goes. You're gonna bind the skills and we're gonna go find the end. The area will be different almost every time, but usually I find success going to find the ant nest in the northwest. So from the checkpoint, you just kind of try to follow the northwest area and just follow the wall over there. When you're going to the northwest, just be aware that whenever you reach any checkpoint, just double check the area. If you're at like really high level, you can accidentally kill the ants, and that's not really good because you have to reset the entire zone to go back and fight the ants again. So yeah. Just gonna go look for any checkpoint over here. So this is one of the checkpoint. Let me see here. This is the spider nest, which is one of the 3 area in here with the checkpoint. Not what we want. So I'm gonna continue to hug the wall and go find the ants. So yeah, if the northwest area is not the ant nest, you just need to follow the wall, and eventually you should run into another checkpoint, which can be to the next area, or in this case, this should be the ant nest. So it looks something like this. And there is the frozen mandible. So this is the guy that we want. You can see that he has extra lightning damage and empowering volatile plant, which is not what we want. So we're gonna respawn a checkpoint until we get the frozen mandible with the Haste aura. So the reason why we want the frozen mandible, first of all, because he is very fast. He is one of the few beasts in the game that actually have really high movement speed, especially when he has the Haste aura, which means he can easily keep up with us. So I'm just gonna keep resetting this until we find the beast with the Haste aura, and I'll see you in a little bit.
5 minutes later.
Alright, so yeah, this is one with Haste aura right here. What you wanna do when you see a beast like this is you're gonna put Tame Beast on the enemy. Let's keep in mind that Tame Beasts do have a duration, so the whip's duration is 9.6 seconds. You need to kill the beast within 9.6 seconds when you cast this Tame Beast skills, otherwise it's not gonna register. So I'm gonna cast this on the beast like that. You see the whips on here, and then I'm gonna kill the beast, and that means we have captured the beast finally, and that is pretty much how you do it. Before we go into the gearing sessions, I want to do a quick showcase T3 Zest in this build, and we're gonna do this with the Darkness Enthroned instead of Headhunter. Now I know in the setups we use Headhunter, and I still highly recommend you to get a Headhunter for this build because it's just helped a lot with mapping, but it's also by no means necessary. So for example, this is a T3 Zest, which means that all the monster is very tanky, and without Headhunter, I'm just wanna quickly show you that you can still clear this without much issues. So yeah, you're gonna save yourself like 60 divine right there because Darkness Enthroned is actually quite cheap, and whatever we are doing in this setup is just also quite cheap because we are getting the Darkness Enthroned with the glove, which nobody really wants, and we are using Cap Talisman, which is very cheap as well, to sucker them for even more accuracy rating. So yeah, this build have a little bit of ramp up time. You can briefly see that I talk about it in the introductions, but once you ramp up the Oro Vasara, you actually get a lot of flat lightning damage, so you can kind of just go around and clear these mobs without much issues. You can see we don't really need the Headhunter buff, but Headhunter buff, what they can provide you is the tankiness and much more attack speed, because there's a Headhunter buff that gives attack speed. Besides that, you know, getting a Darkness Enthroned and running the same exact setup can also be very powerful as well, and you can also clear pinnacle bossings. This is actually the clips that I do the showcase in the beginning of the video, where I clear the T3 Zest with pretty much just Darkness Enthroned with no Headhunter buff, and that is all you need actually. You know, with Headhunter buff, it's actually a lot faster, but you don't always have that for pinnacle bossing, so just have a backup Darkness Enthroned in your inventories if you want to do pinnacle bossings. Can also be a pretty good options. Now we're gonna go and do some boss. It's gonna be the same for all pinnacle bossings. Some boss you might have to do mechanics, and if you can't one-shot them, you're gonna have to do like 2 rounds of Requiems. But yeah, we're gonna swap to the Requiem's crossbow right now. Drink the mana potion so you have enough to activate Compose Requiem, and that's gonna turn your crossbow shots into Requiems, and we just spam it on the boss. Once again, yeah, this is with Darkness Enthroned, no Headhunter buff, and it is that easy. Next up, let's talk about the gearing. And I also go in details in my written guide as well. If you forget anything in this video, you can check out the written guide. But yeah, we want to have a good corruptions for this Oro Vasara unique mace. Now this is actually a quite common unique, so you can buy them and corrupt them yourself. Try to look for, you know, high accuracy rating and high attack speed, and you can try to corrupt them for double sockets. That will be really nice. Sometimes you get good corruptions like what I have right here, double sockets with gain 1 ratio on hits. This is probably one of the best. Otherwise, you can get double sockets, you know, just it's pretty good. You can also get one with the flat damage over here, roll up to 600, which is also really nice, but they can be expensive. Corrupted unique is always expensive, but because this is a quite common unique mace, so you can actually buy them and corrupted them yourself. And then we have the Constricting Command, which is the new unique helmet that was added this league. It's kind of replaced the DPS Tower as like one of the BIS items for attack-based build in general. This is how we are always surrounded. You want to get this with the exact require 5 fewer enemies to be surrounded. And because you are surrounded when there's 5 enemies, so like if you require 5 fewer, that means you are always surrounded. And that means you can activate the Defier 2 always. And so you don't have to worry about mana in this build. So yeah, for this particular helmet, you always want it to be 5 fewer exactly. Next up, we have Lycosity. Now this shield has a unique light that says its accuracy rating is double. And this is very similar to the Resolute Technique keystone over here. It's a lot harder to path over to this keystone as a Ritualist. So with Lycosity, you don't really need to do that. And yeah, this shield is good on our build. And then we have Astromantis. Essentially, we are looking for one with high roll to all attributes. You would probably want to try to get one uncorrupted, and you will try to divine them later when you have the currencies, so you can get better all attributes. Always quality this up with more attributes modifiers. So, you know, this goes from 78 to 93. Once again, just try to get it as high to all attribute as you can. And also I allocate them with pure power. For the body armors, just, you know, try to get high dexterities, you know, flat damage. It doesn't really matter. This is actually a pretty good body armor. It says evasion rating is double if you have not been hit recently. So if you have not been hit for the past 4 seconds, the accuracy rating just go off the roof. And because of the new evasion rating Fobler, having 78% evasion is actually quite good. And in our build, because we are always using Molten Blast, it's a lot harder for the enemy to hit us. So the best defense is to really never get hit, and Hyrule Eye is just good. And then we have Hand of Wisdom in action. This is how we are getting a lot of damage into our build. So we are accuracy stackings, but we are also attribute stackings, and this is kind of like our scaling vector. We get a lot of accuracies from intelligence, but also intelligence provides us the lightning damage, flat lightning damage to attack. And we get a lot of accuracy from dexterity, but we also get increased attack speed from dexterity. And then we get Astromantis with a bunch of attributes. This is like the core for attribute stacking, and it has been since 0.2. And then we have the Headhunters, nothing to be said. Only here you want to try to get at least 2 charm slot. So you have 3 because you get +1 from the campaign. Yeah, I have a stun charm, a frozen charm, and I'm gonna be using the rarity charm for my last slot. And then we have the Last Lament, which is on our weapon set 2. You always want this unique mace to be on weapon set 1 because we are using Rigward Ferocity, which gives us more attack speed if it's being used in weapon set 1. So you don't want to put this in weapon set 2 where you are actually getting less attack speed. So yeah, Last Lament in our weapon set 2. You want to try and get this with as high physical damage roll as possible. And attack speed would be less important because we already have so much, but it's also pretty good, so try to get this as high as you can. And this is only here for Compose Requiem, which is our single target damage skills. If you can get this at level 19, I think it also do a little bit more damage. But yeah, overall, this crossbows is what solve our single target damage. And that is pretty much all of our unique items. We have the boots, which I choose to have high evasion rating, rarities. We also have elemental resistance on here and maximum life. The movement speed is actually optional on this boot because you don't need any. Our skills is what we use to move, so you don't actually need move speed. Now for our ring, because we benefit so much from the ascendancies, you want to have good investment to have at least a nice ring on your build. So What we are looking for is to cap our chaos and elemental resistance all in our ring slot because we are using a lot of unique items, and that will be the first thing. Beside that, we are also looking to get increased rarity of item found on all of your ring if you can. Otherwise, if you have a really good ring and don't have increased rarity, is fine as well. But yeah, try to get your rarity to at least above 100%. Once you cap your chaos and elemental resistance and have a decent amount of rarity that you think is enough, for the rest of the stats, try to look for attributes, flat damage, pretty much anything that would help with getting more damage into the build. And finally, we have the Darkness Enthroned. If you don't have the money to straight up buy a Headhunter right now, it can be quite expensive. You can go with Darkness Enthroned for now until you farm yourself up a Headhunter. This item is actually very good for how cheap it is. We're looking for the glove roll, and you can use Cat Talisman to increase accuracy rating from your belt. Of course, there is always alternative for a red belt where you can get triple resistance, which means that you free up even more slot on your ring, and therefore you can get a lot of flat damage and more damage into the build. And finally, always try to get your belt with at least 2 charm slots, so you can have 3 charm slots in total, and you can use all the charm that you need. And finally, let's talk about our passive skill trees. And I'm aware that I haven't talked about the jewels, but because a lot of these jewels just directly impact our passive skill tree, so I'm going to talk about them in this section as well. So yeah, the only jewels that is not unique jewel on our build is an emerald right here, which projectile damage, accuracy rating, and attack speed. All these 3 lines are good for our build, and I get one with corrupted blood, cannot be inflicted on you corruption, so I don't have to worry about corrupted blood. And for the passive skill tree itself, we are using 2 weapon sets, and I'm not using all of the weapon set points yet. I'll try to see if I can optimize for more points, but this is what I have at level 90. Now, in our passive skill tree setups, we are using a heroic tragedy right here, and this one you only need to worry about rolling for the line of Oroth. And once you have the Oroth on the heroic tragedy, you're gonna convert this keystone called Walker of the Wilds into nightly tenets, which give us increased evasion rating per 2 intelligence. And it just happened that we are on this side of the tree, so we are building evasions and everything just suit very nicely. And then over here, I have From Nothing Diamonds. In this one here, it said passive in radius of Oasis can be allocated, which means that we are able to allocate escape strategies, careful considerations. Now, this note right here is actually a weapon set 1 note, so if you're not paying attention, you might miss on this, but yeah, this is a weapon set 1 note only, and we are not. The reason why we don't want area of effect for attack for our weapon set 2 is because the Requiem attack, if you are using Requiem like this, the more area of effect you have, the more spread out it actually is, and it might impact your ability to hit the boss. So you don't want to have area of effect on your weapon set 2. And then we are also using a Megalomaniac jewels in a build. Now, I'm always refrain, or I always provide alternative options if you don't get the Megalomaniac jewels. This is because all of these Megalo can be quite expensive if there's not enough supply. So what we are looking for on here is Nimble Strength, and it's gain accuracy rating equal to strength. It's the notable right here. If you don't have the Megalo, anoint this on your amulet and save yourself money. And we have one with accuracy equal to intelligence, and dexterity provide accuracy, so we are triple stacking all of our attributes, both for damage and also for accuracy stacking, which in turn convert into attack speed with Falcon Dive. You only need to really follow the passive skill trees that I have over here, and we are separating weapon set 1 and 2. So for example, we have points where we are taking one-handed damage. That means the crossbow will not be beneficial from this, which is why it is a weapon set 1 only. Now, you might also be wondering why we are not taking elemental penetrations on weapon set 2, which is because we are using the Last Lament, and on the Requiem's attack, we are using Rakiata Flow, which means that we will invert enemy elemental resistance, Now, the formula for elemental penetrations in PoE 2 is a little bit different, where it cannot go below 0, and most likely when you are using Rakiata Flow on a pinnacle boss, for example, it's gonna invert that to like negative 75%, which means that your penetration is just not gonna have any sort of effect at all, and therefore you should not use it. So weapon set 2, what I'm taking is mainly nodes that increase our damage. We also path over here to get, buff effects expire slower, so the Requiem actually stay a little bit longer, and skill effect duration and stuff like that. But yeah, all you need to know is just kind of follow the passive skill trees that I have laid out over here. And there's actually a small thing that can be improved on the build. So we don't have a timeless Jules calculator on PoE 2 yet, but if you are able to get a heroic strategy with good roll on this node right here, you can actually path over here for 2 points and grab that node, whatever it is. So yeah, right now it is enhanced reflex. Usually it is pretty good because we can grab deflection rating and also increase dexterity. But yeah, this node will be converted into a random notables, which we don't know what, and there's no way to find out until you actually bought the jewels and put it in. So yeah, if it's not good, just don't allocate that, but if you think it is useful, then put point into that and it should be fine. And yeah, this is my passive skill trees at level 90. Now the next breakpoint would be level 95, where I'm gonna grab all these companion nodes and path to inspiring ally, which gonna convert all of these nodes into a generic 22% increased damage node, and that should be pretty good. And then for even higher level, probably path more into companions. But yeah, we have a companions and we can make use of it, so why not? I want to have a little sections where I talk about leveling, because a lot of people have asked on how to level this build. Now, personally, I use my Hollow Palm setups to finish the campaign in just under 5 hours. And the character is very strong. I finished the campaign at level 61, so I go from 1 to 61 throughout the campaign, without the need to ascend at all. And right after this, you can probably do a few T1 map to get yourself to level 65, at which point you can get your Ritualist Ascendancies. You only need 2 Ascendancies, so you don't really have to pay if you don't want to, and get all your unique items, rings and stuff equipped. And with the Oro Vasara, you can basically play the Molten Blast build. Just make sure that you grab all of the notables that is good for accuracy stacking and attribute stackings, and that is gonna be pretty much all you need to start mapping with this character. Just make sure that you don't do T15 right out of the gate, even if you have the gear and the Headhunters. There is EXP penalty in this game if you are too far apart from the monster level, so you're gonna have to slowly work your way up. So yeah, that is pretty much everything I want to share on the build. When I go into this build, I didn't expect it to perform very well, but right now in the endgame, I can safely say it has been a blast for me. I will update the written guide with the Ritualist versions, and I'll go back and revamp the Titan version as well, because I think both versions will be working very well. But that is it for the video. Hopefully when you're playing this build, you have a lot of fun, and good luck, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.